Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. Ray Flowers breaks it all down for you from a fantasy sports perspective. Good morning, everyone. Oh, geez. Happens to me every time. I get stage fright. I don't know what's going on. I'm Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. Thanks for joining me today. Really appreciate it. We are Fantasy Sports Daily. We're here with you Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 5 days a week at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We go about an hour. We have a lot of fun. Tuesdays through Thursdays, we have two of us on here. I host on Monday, Thursday, Friday. On Tuesdays and Wednesdays, Justin Fensterman hosts. From Tuesday to Friday, we have on in order each day one guest from FantasyGuru.com. Ramon Marsal, Rich Mileto, Tyler Beaker, Russell Clay. Each of those guys comes on at about 12:30 Eastern Standard Time, about halfway through the show, and we chop it up with all of them. But on Mondays, you got me going for an hour-ish, sometimes a little less, sometimes a little more, riding solo. We don't have any football games to review. Usually on Mondays, I just go through game-by-game football action. First time in 5 months, we haven't had football to talk about on a Monday. So we'll talk a lot of baseball here on the show. You might be wondering why I'm not with you on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Well, that's because I'm over on SiriusXM with Jeff Mans on the Elite Sports Show. That show is Monday through Friday from 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So 5 days a week, Jeff is there for 3 hours. We're with you 5 days a week for 1 hour here. So you watch, listen to this show, take an hour break, go to FG, read some articles, look at some rankings, hit up Discord, have a discussion or two, and then you turn into SiriusXM on Monday through Friday, 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Elite Sports Show with Jeff Mans. I am with Jeff every Tuesday and every Wednesday all season long. What are we doing on the show today? Let's throw it up on the old screen-a-rooner here as I get rid of the banner so you can actually read what it says. Again, all baseball today. We'll talk a little bit more about the draft guide, which is continuing to grow on a daily basis. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll also spend a good deal of time on the show today looking back at some of the biggest surprise hitters from 2025. Later in the week, I'll probably look at biggest surprise pitchers. So there's an article. You can see it there on the screen, or you can find it in the description below. An article that has details on these guys. We'll also talk a little bit about Major League Baseball news, guys like Musgrove, Basseo, and Austin Hayes. And then the two big moves over the weekend, Luis Arraez to the Giants, and Eugenio Suarez back to the Reds. So we'll talk about both those scenarios as well. You might be saying, on the screen, what are you talking about, Ray? Well, for those of you that have the opportunity to watch live or on demand, you can watch the show at youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork, Twitter X @FantasyGuru site, and Facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ. In any of those three places, you can watch the show live or on demand at any point. If you're watching live, you can leave comments and questions throughout the show, such as these here. Let's go if I could figure out how to use the tech. Here we go. Here's a Golf G. What up, Ray? Mr. Bunch. What up, Mr. Bunch? Welcome to the show. Adam says he's going to be running late. He's going to have to come back and listen on demand, which is totally fine. He's at baby class with my wife all day. Well, good luck. Watch live birth videos. Oh, boy. Yeah, that's, if you haven't seen that before, I've never witnessed the miracle of birth from my loins. I do know that they sometimes suggest that the father doesn't actually watch the baby coming out because, hey, more power to you if you can watch that stuff. But good for you, Adam. Way to be there for your significant other and to help her out through that process. But yeah, you can always listen to this show on demand at any of the three places I listed just a moment ago. You can also go to Fantasy Sports Daily at the top. There's a toolbar. Just click on the Elite Plus tab right at the top. Elite Plus. It'll take you to all the shows we have. This show, Jeff Mann show, excuse me, Ramon Marsal's show, Justin Fensterman's show, the NASCAR show, which I believe Sean Engel was nominated for FSWA award. So he and Rich Mileto host that show. So all the shows on the Elite Sports Network by clicking that Elite Plus tab. I see a comment here too before we dive on in. Chris said, I'll be joining auction leagues. We'll be breaking that type of league down on the channel or on the Elite Sports Show. Right now we have auction values over at fantasyguru.com for AL-only leagues, N-only leagues, and mixed leagues. Okay, so we've got all three of those setups with auction values. You can download them and move the numbers around and all that kind of stuff if you'd like. We'll probably touch on it a little bit on both this show and the Elite Sports Show. I don't know. Jeff plans out those shows, and he's got plans. He's always got the plans weeks, months in advance. I don't know what the plans are for that show. Here, we'll probably touch on it. I used to do a lot more, and someone was asking me about this in Discord the other day. I used to do a lot more podcast work than I do right now. Why? because I'm here with you every day. I'm here with Jeff every day, right? So, in the old days, I do a podcast a week. Well, now I'm here three hours a week with you, talking the baseball and the sports. So, the auction one is a good idea. You can go back and look at anything previously to Chris. If you go and you go and look at the top of the page and you click on I think let's actually do that together. I wonder if they're still up. Well, let's take a look. If you go to seasonal, go to MLB Draft Guide, you go to MLB Podcasts, it will then pop up the previous podcasts that I've done over the years. Let's see. Okay, come on. There we go. Yeah, it still has the ones in the past, so you should be able to scroll through that and eventually find something on auction values. It won't necessarily be exactly on the players today, but I try to do these kind of evergreen anyway. I try to make it a scenario where, especially when we're talking about something like auction values, that it's not specific to a season. Let me see, verify if I can find it here as we're talking. But yeah, that's a good idea to talk about here on the show. I will say this. I try not to share everything here on the show, and maybe that's bad of me. But here it is. We do have a product over at fantasyguru.com. We are selling the product over at fantasyguru.com. Trying to make money. I'm trying to make a living. I'm trying to feed myself. So can't share everything we do here over at the website for free with you all here on the show. But that's a good idea. So if you have any questions, Chris, hit me up in Discord, of course. I'm scrolling through here trying to find something. Here we go. And I will actually put it in the chat here. Chris, you are on. This is an old version. You might be able to do some other checking, Chris. That's just one I pulled up from a few years back because I'm on the show trying to do things. But it'll give you a little bit of a rundown on kind of how to do things. So hopefully that helps you out. So Chris, check out the chat there on YouTube. That is another advantage. Obviously, you all can talk to each other. And have a discussion, but you can also talk to me. So there it is, Chris. Look at that. On the fly service. Helping you out. Let's see here. Tony says, Ray, your baseball article's on fire. Awesome. Thank you. The hardest working man in a hoodie in America. Yeah. I've been wearing a lot of hoodies lately. And the truth is, when you don't have hair, you need some help. It gets cold. I don't mind being bald. I'm not trying to hide my baldness, of course. But yeah, it does get a little chilly. So do wear a beanie for that reason. Murphenstein says, Oracle, good morning. Good morning, Murph. Hope you're doing well, wherever you might be on this fine day. Greg says, morning, Ray. I found an old pin from the Oakland Skates roller hockey. Went like twice. It was fun. Wonder what happened to that league. I don't know what happened to the roller hockey league. I'll tell you this. I used to watch roller derby every Saturday or Sunday. I think it was Saturday, right? Used to be on Channel 2 here in the Bay Area. I used to watch my grandmother. Yeah. Dialing for Dollars was an old show on that. We used to watch my grandmother too. One of the women that was in the roller derby actually was a bagger at the local grocery store. And she became friends with my grandmother. And so I'd watch roller derby with my grandmother. That's a great memory there. And again, Dialing for Dollars, I believe the name of the show. And Chris says, thanks, Ray. I will take a look and I will be subscribing to the seasonal package. Yeah. The auction, just so Chris and everyone else knows, that the link that I put in Discord, you have to be a member to view that or listen to it. But yeah, we'll probably touch on it a little bit there. But that was a full hour-long podcast talking just about it. The Bay Bombers. There you go, Eric. Yes. Simpler times, right? I've been very nostalgic here of late too, and I don't know. It's not a midlife crisis. Oh, God, I don't know if I want to live to be 100, even if I could. But no, I just been looking back, and I follow a bunch of accounts on Instagram. You can follow me on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, Twitter X at the Ray Flowers. I've been on there. By the way, you can see me in Underoos today if you check that out on Instagram. But yeah, I've been looking at it. I follow a bunch of 80s accounts, and it's, I think back, we're all nostalgic from when we were kids, right? A lot of Atari stuff, video game stuff, Garbage Pail Kids, Cabbage Patch Kids, the big shoelaces, the big hair. Kind of been nostalgic. They're looking back at the 80s here. So yeah, roller derby was back in the 70s too. But that was a lot of fun back in the day. All right, so let's get to what you're really here for, though. Hopefully you enjoy when we do some little digressions like that. Take a sip of some Gatorade here before we rock and roll. By the way, for those of you that, why am I drinking Gatorade every day? If you've noticed, I've been drinking Gatorade every day. If you get Gatorade, don't buy it fresh from the store. It's what, $2.50, $3, whatever the hell it is. Order the packets. You get a box of 10 packets, it's like $7. So it's like 70 cents. And you just pour the insides into the water. There you go. So 70 cents versus $3. If you're going to do it, do it. There you go. Angela says, go Reds, they finally made a move. Yep, they did make a move. And we'll talk about that in a bit here. We will talk about the Eugenio Suarez. Interesting move by the Reds. I get it. You're adding a 40 home run bat who used to play there. I get it. But kind of odd. We'll talk a little bit. It really jams things. You got a Gold Glover at third base. You got a Gold Glover at first base. You got an up-and-coming rookie that you think is going to be great. And you sign a guy that jams up the playing time for everybody. Kind of interesting. We'll talk about that in a little bit. All right. So there is an article. You can see it there on the screen. There is an article that talks about the biggest surprise hitters and the biggest surprise pitchers. Remember, go to fantasyguru.com. If you haven't signed up yet, click the subscribe tab in the top right corner. If you have any questions, you can see the email there, support@fantasyguru.com. Go to the homepage at fantasyguru.com. Scroll down a little bit. We still got football stuff everywhere. But scroll down a little bit. There's a blue box. Click on the view MLB guide there. It'll take you to the homepage listing all the articles, including the one we're talking about here today. It's been a while since we played 2025. Some guys came on late. You may not have noticed because your team was kind of in the toilet and you stopped paying a little bit of close attention. Maybe it was fantasy football. Maybe something with your family came up. Maybe you just, you got a 6-month memory and then you forget things. All right, that's fine. So let's talk a little bit about some of the players there that actually performed better than anticipated. Miguel Andujar is the first name that we're going to talk about here. And Andujar, that Miguel Andujar who's been around forever, was he 32? 30. He'll be 31 next month. 31. Miguel Andujar, who broke in with the Yankees, had a dynamic season in 2018, rookie of the year kind of season. Really the only good year he's ever had. And I remember back then it was like, well, there's concerns. I didn't think it would be this concerning. I mean, he's basically been unable to establish himself as a daily player, and a lot of that has to do with an inability on defense. But last year, he was really good. Now, he played for the Athletics. He played for the Reds. Again, he's a free agent right now. But last year, he killed it. And you look at the slash line. I mean, it's 318, 352 average, 470 slug, 822. It's an all-star level of performance. Obviously, the lack of defensive acumen and position is holding him back from finding a spot with the big league team right now. Teams are also looking at this and saying, hey, look, that's not who you are offensively. You're a 700 OPS guy. You're not an 800 OPS guy. So there's that's going on too. He'll sign with somebody at some point and worm his way into some playing time. Decent bat. And I think the best that can be said about Andujar is that he's really an only option, right? And only depending upon what league he falls into. He's really an only option because he's just not likely to get 500 plate appearances. And if you're not playing every day, it's really tough to utilize you in the fantasy space. But he was really good last year, though I am very dubious, as you can tell, of a repeat in the coming season. Addison, Barger, third base and outfield eligible. Really nice, over 50 games at both positions there. He's been around for a while. He started his big league career back in 2018. He's 26 years old. Was really good last year, and he improved and was effective down the stretch. He carried that on into the playoffs. It's going to be part of the daily lineup for the Blue Jays, of course, this season. Walk rate a little bit below league average. Strikeout rate a little bit above league average. Slash line, very boring. 450 slugging percentage, not bad, but the batting average and on-base percentage, league average or below league average. Isolated power over 200, league average about 160. So 200 mark is solid here. Hits the ball pretty hard. Nice barrel rate, double digit hard hit rate. He is a good bet to replicate the success he had last season. It's hard to look at the overall game with Barger and think he's going to greatly improve upon what he did last season, but he could replicate it, and he does qualify at 2 positions, which is always something that we love in the fantasy space. I was hoping last year that it would be Zack Veen, which would be the outfield of the Rockies that we'd be talking about this season. Unfortunately, not the case. It was Jordan Beck, which is fine because I grabbed Jordan Beck in multiple leagues and all that kind of stuff. But this is weird. I'm still not really convinced. I'm not really convinced the Rockies know what they're doing, to be quite honest. The way they handle this team and the moves they make, it's a weird group. Zack Veen's still waiting for an opportunity at the big league level. In the case of Jordan Beck, they gave him an opportunity last year. He kind of seized the opportunity, I guess is the best way to put it. And he was really good. He went 15-15, nearly went 15-20. Did get caught 8 times on 27 steal attempts, which is not a good success rate, you want to be 75%. Yeah. Not a really good success rate, but again, he almost stole 20 bases. 258 batting average in Colorado, 317 on base percentage, 416 slug. This is a very moderate performer with the bat in his hands. Now, from a fantasy perspective, going 15-15, we take that and we'll play that. But overall, is there anything here to get excited about? No. This is, I play every day in Coors Field, and I run a little bit. So hard to see him taking another step this year. If he were able to replicate what he did last year, I think we'd be in a good spot with him. Dominic Canzone is somebody that, I mean, you probably saw the name there and may not even know what team he plays for. It's Seattle. He obviously was in the lineup a little bit more, I think, than we were anticipating at the start of the season. One, because of the injury to Victor Robles, and two, because he deserved it. Canzone was a 650 OPS guy his first 2 seasons, covering a total of about 130 games. Last year was only 82 games, but look at those numbers. 300, 358, 481. It's really good. And if you look at his splits last year, he was effective against lefties and righties. Now, he didn't get a chance to face many lefties, but, the numbers weren't drastically different. They are often with young players and certainly with platoon guys. 712 against lefties is not good. It's league average. That's intriguing because it also comes with a 368 on base percentage. So while he didn't drive the ball at all against left-handed pitching, not overly surprising given his skill set, he was able to get on base at an extremely high level. In fact, a higher on base percentage against lefties than righties, even though his OPS against righties was 880. So he's a tricky/intriguing player. Not tricky, I should say intriguing player is Calzone because, Canzone, not Calzone, geez. I'm hungry. I had pizza for breakfast this morning, old pizza. I had to heat it up. By the way, if you eat cold pizza in the morning, you're horrible. You're disgusting. You have to warm it up. Come on, right? You don't eat cold pizza. You don't just grab it out of the box, out of the fridge and eat it, do you? Ugh. Canzone right now is probably the DH for the Mariners. And if he's getting 450 plate appearances, that's a name to file away. We'll have to follow his playing time outlook and the discussions from the team here and the final, free agent signings and all of that. But pretty intriguing. Pretty intriguing there. Let me make a note here. Yep. So yeah, I do hopefully cover up while I'm taking notes for later to surprise you with exciting things while we're doing the show. Anyway, Canzone is an intriguing player. Keep an eye on the news reports with him. If he falls in again to 450 plate appearances, we're cooking with gas, as the kids say. Ernie Clement out of nowhere. Ernie Clement didn't do anything, right? 9 home runs, 50 RBIs, hit 277, stole 6 bases. But did score 83 runs. It's a very solid number for a backup player. And the biggest key, as anyone who had him last year knows, he qualifies everywhere. 89 games at third, 60 games at second, 29 games at short. So he qualifies at second, third, and short in every league heading into this season. He also played 15 games at first base. And while you don't want to use him at first base, and a lot of leagues still require 20 games played per position, Ernie Clement could be a 4-position guy. I mean, 3 is remarkable anyway, but 4? That makes him well worth the extra dollar in the AL-only space. Well worth an extra $1, maybe even $2 for the versatility he brings. And if you look at his bat, he's a lefty killer. So in a mixed league, is he going to improve upon the numbers from last year? He does qualify at 3 or 4 positions, though. In his numbers against righties, 622 OPS. Ugh. But if you have a deep bench, if you're in a deep league, he had a 900 OPS against lefties. 900. So Clement, he is an intriguing option because of the versatility that he brings. He will likely hit 8th or 9th, further limiting his outlook and value. He's not going to, pass Barger, who's probably going to hit second for the Blue Jays. You'll have George Springer hitting third, obviously at first. Vlad hitting third. Santander, if he's healthy, hitting fourth. So it's going to be tough for Clement to rise up in the batting order. But hey, he is what he is, and it's not a bad place to go looking late in the draft. Not the best because there's no upside, but not awful depending upon how your team is put together. Now, this next guy, Hunter Goodman, he's 26 already. And his first 2 years at the big league level, he played 990 games, had like 300 plate appearances. And his OPS was 640 and his K rate was 30%. And that's like, well, who cares, right? And it's like, well, he is catcher eligible. He will be catcher eligible again this season too. He is catcher eligible and he plays for the Rockies, so let's give it a shot, right? And I last year was never in on Hunter Goodman. And in retrospect, that was one of the biggest misses of the year for me. He had 30 home runs and 90 RBIs. And he had 278. Like, he was phenomenal. He was he was a top 3 catcher. And that was extremely surprising. He did a very good job of cutting the strikeout rate down from 30% to 26%. Still a little high, but we totally live with that, right? So that was a very good improvement he showed there. He improved his walk rate a little bit. Still the 0.22 walk to strikeout ratio. The league average is usually 0.35 to 0.40. So 0.22 is roughly half the league average. That is not good. That's too many strikeouts, not enough walks, not enough walks. It's just not. When you don't control the strike zone well, you're opening yourself up to the vagaries of home run to fly ball ratios and batting average of balls in play and those kind of things. He had a 331 batting average of balls in play. Now he plays in Colorado, but that number's elevated in my opinion. That number probably comes down 30 points. With it, his 278 batting average becomes 258, right? Maybe it's 248 even in Colorado. He doesn't run. He's got 3 steals in 237 games. So now we're talking about a 250 hitter with no steals. Now, Ray's a catcher. Absolutely. And if he's hitting 250 with 30 home runs as a catcher, who cares, right? So I'm not signaling doom here by any means with Goodman. I'm just saying that in strong belief, the 843 OPS is not going to be repeated. Again, I was wrong last year, so maybe I'm still wrong. But I just don't see it in this overall skill set to look at the slash line from last year and think it's repeatable for him. But again, if he's a top 10 catcher, there's no question about that. He can even be top 5 with very little pushback if he gets another 500 plus plate appearances. Now, Trent Grisham is a very fascinating player. Grisham is 30 at the end of the year, so he's to play this year at the age of 29. When he came up, he was a good defensive player who was going to go 15-15. And in 2021, he had 15 home runs and 13 steals. So he was right there, right? He then stopped hitting. He hit 184, he hit 198, he hit 190. Over a span of 380 games, he hit 190. 380 games. Not 80, not 38. 380 games, he hit 190. Ooh. Somehow a guy who would never hit 20 home runs, somehow a guy that would hit 190 for 3 years, hit 34 home runs last year. Out of nowhere. If anyone had placed a bet before the season, what were the odds on him hitting 30 home runs? That wasn't even on the board, but what? Plus 2,500? Like, no one was projecting that. Well, he had the best walk rate of his career and the best strikeout rate of his career. And when you do that, you improve. Now, he did all that, and he still hit 235. His walk to strikeout rate was 0.6, so way above the league average. And he hit 235. His issue is that last year was the fluke of flukes. 253 batting average of balls in play, so nothing overly wonky there. But his fly ball rate is now about 45%. That's where it's been the last year and including the previous 3 years. So the last 4 years has been 45%. So that's where he's at. He's a fly ball guy at this point. League average fly ball rate, 36, 37%. So he's at 45%. So that's a lot of balls in the air. The batting average of balls in play is not going up because fly balls are the least likely batted ball type to end up in a base hit. Okay. So he's hitting a lot of balls in the air, which severely limits his batting average, right? Even with all the success he had last year, he didn't steal any bases. He only ran 5 times. So we're not looking at a guy stealing 15 bases. We're hoping a guy steals 5 bases. We're not looking at 34 home runs. We're hoping for 24 home runs. Too many fly balls. And, what was his home run to fly ball ratio? If I can find it here as we're talking. His home run to fly ball ratio was 22%. Not an insane number. Home run to fly ball ratio, though, generally speaking, if you look at the previous 3 years, that is a really strong and good indicator of what the next year is going to be. So if you looked at his previous 3 years, the number would have been what? 12%? What's the number would have been? 12.3%. Almost doubled it. So his home run to fly ball ratio is coming back. And if the number comes back to his career average of 15%, here we go. We're losing 5 home runs. Boom. Right? So extreme caution with Grisham. He has virtually no chance to repeat the 34 home runs with 87 runs scored. He's going to hit 230 if things go well. If they go poorly, he's going to hit 210. Actually, if they go poorly, he'll hit under 200. We've seen that happen. And Jason Dominguez is lurking. The advantage Grisham has is his defense over Grisham or over Dominguez, is superior. Like, it's not even, they're not even in the same ballpark. Can't even discuss these two guys like they're the same kind of player defensively, because they're not. But if you're hitting 190, be very cautious with Grisham. That'd be my takeaway there. Ramon Laureano kind of revived his career, and he's bounced around a lot, bunch of different teams here and there. He's now with the Padres. That's who he finished the season with. Each of the last 3 seasons, he's been on 2 teams. So that tells you he's the guy that gets traded at the trade deadline. Back in 2019, in his first full season, he had 24 home runs, stole 10 bases, hit 290. All right, this is going to be a really good player for a long time. He then stopped. He had injuries, up and down performances. There were split issues. And it wasn't until last season. So that's a gap of 6 years before he was that guy again. And his numbers last year were almost identical to where they were in 2019. Ron Chandler used to famously say, once you display a skill, you own it. So you can't sit here and say that a guy that had an 860 OPS once and then an 855 OPS again with almost an identical slash line, with almost an identical isolated power markets 2 points apart. You can't say that that guy can't do it again. The problem is 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024, he didn't do it. So, what really stood out last year? He hit the ball a little bit harder. Best barrel rate of his career, best exit velocity of his career. Not by a lot, but the best numbers of his career. Certainly had the best hard hit rate of his career, 49%, 8 percentage points above his career number. His expected batting average was 274. His expected slug was 503. So the numbers he posted last year, given his overall game, weren't that wonky. So can he repeat last year's production? He could. I would anticipate the batting average dropping. I think the counting categories numbers could be very consistent if he's able to get another 475 plate appearances. And that was also an issue. Each of the previous 5 years, his high was only 404. Last year was 488. It was 481 back in 2019. So it really depends about how many games he's going to play. He's a fine depth option. There's no ceiling with him. In fact, the ceiling is last year. That's really the ceiling. So he's a kind of not my cup of tea kind of player, right? He's just a guy you grab if you got. He's more of a guy you pick up off the waiver wire, right? When you need somebody on May 10th, if he's available on the waiver wire. When you talk about this next player, he is somebody who is limited. He, like Grisham, is a very good defensive player. Unlike Grisham, he has absolutely no power, but also unlike Grisham, he runs. And down the stretch last year, I don't know, again, this is one of those players that, if you weren't paying attention in the second half, who the hell is Daylen Lile? Well, he's a guy last year that stole 8 bags, that performed very well, that had a 347 on base percentage, which is pretty good, had a 498 slugging percentage, which is really good. And he had he had his WOBA of 360. That's an all-star level WOBA. No one was talking about this guy in that respect, right? I don't think he was like 6th or 7th prospect in the Nationals organization. He wasn't somebody that was expected to jump out and go nuts here. And kind of went nuts he did. He had an 891 OPS against righties. The number in the second half was 956. So those of you that were playing late and needed to pick up off the waiver wire and grabbed him, you got championship level production from him out of nowhere, totally unexpected. You can't expect that level of success in the coming campaign. That would be unreasonable and unfair. But you can expect him, I think, to be a quality performer. He can get on base with the walk. That's a big deal. It'll really matter where he hits. I have seen some prognostications with the Nationals who are, if you haven't looked lately, he might hit third. That's intriguing. Now, I don't know, to me, James Wood, C.J. Abrams, Daylen Lile, Dylan Cruz, you got to get Cruz higher in the order because you can't have 3 lefties to start the game. That's my opinion. I don't want James Wood batting leadoff. I would go Abrams, Cruz, Wood, Lile. If you're going to do it that way, Lyle's probably not a 4th hitter. But they don't have a 4th hitter. That's their problem. Their 4th hitter is really James Wood, but you got to get him more at bats. So pay attention to how the batting order plays out. Lyle's got a chance to be in the top 3. And if he is, he's somebody that we're going to have to start paying a little bit more attention to in the fantasy space. Jake Mangum. Jake is now with the new team. Mangum is now with the Pirates. Yeah, I know, raised the Pirates. He's 30 next month. So this is another one of these players. He's 30 next month. He was a rookie last year. We talk about this all the time. As a general rule, if you pull back, if you're 28 years old and you've never had a big league at bat, there's holes and deficiencies in your game. Right, that's the only way to explain it. Mangum was given an opportunity last year, stole 27 bases. And that's really the only thing that stood out about his game. I mean, he hit 296. Okay. He had a 345 batting average of balls in play. That number probably pulls back a little bit. His barrel rate was under 3%. That's terrible. His exit velocity was 87 miles an hour. That's really bad, really, really bad. He hits the ball and runs fast, right? Should play every day for the Pirates. So this skill set, while not intriguing, could result in 275 average and 30 steals this year because he's just likely to play most of the time for the Pirates. But very boring and a limited offensive player who, again, you're looking at mostly for the speed piece. Next up, Zack McKinstry. McKinstry, very much like Ernie Clement, who we talked about earlier, qualifies at multiple positions. That got his line here. He qualifies at third base 85 games, shortstop 40 games, outfield 45 games. Then he played 6 games at second and 1 at first. So he should qualify at third base, shortstop, and outfield. Again, some setups, bad ones, will include second. Some insane ones might include first. So check out your provider. Should be third base, shortstop, outfield. Which, again, just like Ernie Clement, gives him value in this game because that's really important. The problem for him is 12 home runs, who cares? 49 RBIs, who cares? 68 runs, who cares? 19 steals is nice. I'm not going to sit here and say 19 steals isn't nice, but it's not a number that pushes the needle to the level of being excited whatsoever with McKinstry. Then you look at where is he going to play with this team? Is he going to be their starting shortstop? They got Javier Baez there, you know. Are they going to play him in the outfield? Well, they also have Matt Bierling there. They can use Matt Bierling in the infield. This is a good Tigers team with a lot of weapons and options here, right? McKinstry, I think he plays most days. Is he going to get 511 plate appearances again? I'm going to say no. It's probably going to be below that. It might be 411, 430, 50. It's going to be very difficult for him to replicate his overall fantasy numbers from last season. So like Clement, it's more about a fill-in guy, especially in an AL-only scenario, but more about a fill-in guy in a mixed league because of the defensive versatility. Perdomo, I'm wondering here, okay? Follow me for a second. Francisco Lindor, for those people that aren't old enough to remember when Lindor was coming up to the minor leagues and all that, Francisco Lindor was going to be a moderate offensive player who was really good defensively, right? The thing, all the scouting reports said that this guy is a really good offensive player, but he just doesn't have any power. Like he's a 15 home run guy, maybe 20 if everything goes well, maybe. And he routinely has 30 home runs now, right? Are we getting the same kind of thing out of Perdomo, who had the same story? Remember, he signed a contract extension last year, 4 years, $45 million. Me included. A lot of people said, what are they doing? Like this guy, he's a really good defensive player. You know, he's got some versatility and all that. Sure. He's great to have around. Okay. But why are you giving $45 million to this guy? Look what he did last year. He went 2020, almost went 2030. He batted 290. He drove in 100 runs and scored 98. Geraldo Perdomo almost went 290, 20, 100, 130, which is a big boy season. This from a guy who the first, four professional seasons in the big leagues. I mean, he had 14 home runs and hit 235. Let me repeat that. 14 home runs while batting 235 in 401 games. He was... Again, why are you giving this guy $10 million a year when he's... Good defensive player, sure, but he can't hit it all. Last year was a superstar. He will be a fascinating one to watch this year because you can't look at 2030, which is, again, he's only 3 steals short of doing that. You can't look at that and not be impressed. But 2025 was last year. We don't chase in the fantasy game. We certainly don't recommend that at all at fantasyguru.com. Caution here. I don't I don't look at the home run total and feel really good about a repeat there. Even with the success last year of the 20 home runs, didn't even have a 10% home run to fly ball ratio. His launch angle is 15%, solid number, but not guaranteeing you 20 plus home runs. 88 mile an hour exit velocity is poor. 6% barrel rate is poor. 32% hard hit rate is poor. And if you look at his slugging percentage and then you look at his expected slugging percentage was over 40 points below his actual slugging percentage last year. So we're probably looking at 15 home runs from him this year. Does he push for 30 steals? I'd put him at lower 20, so 15, 20, doable. But if he's hitting 265, which is, again, those batted ball numbers are really, really not impressive at the least. They're not even impressive. They're not even average. They're poor. Is he going to hit 290 again? Yeah, I mean, he's fast, but so I'm cautious. I missed it last year on Perdomo 100%. I'm not going to be in this year because the price to me is going to supersede the level of production. I don't know if he's appreciably better. Now follow me here. And don't appreciate. I didn't say he's not going to be better. I would definitely take him over this guy, and I think he will be better than this guy. But is he going to be appreciably better than Zack McKinstry, who we just talked about? I just don't know the answer to that. Or I do know the answer, I think, and it's not yes. So be cautious with Perdomo. Augustin Ramirez, somebody that was added off the waiver wire everywhere last year, and as one of the better hitting rookie prospects in the National League. He ended up having a pretty damn good season, actually, that I don't think anyone really talks about. Still 16 bases as a rookie, which is really nice. He's a catcher-eligible player. Played 70 games as a catcher last year. He went 20-15 as a catcher. Now, I don't look at that steal number and expect it to repeat. I would expect, let's say 10, 12 steals. Okay. The 21 home runs, he could get a little bit higher. He could get to 25, but again, I think in that 20 zone, probably better bet. The Marlins have no reason not to play him at catcher or DH like all the time, right? So can he repeat the 585 plate appearances? Maybe, but that's a big number too, especially for a catcher-eligible player. So in total, you have a guy that hits the ball pretty well, doesn't strike out. 19% strike rate is really nice. But batting average is a concern. He doesn't take many walks, so his on-base percentage is probably going to be, it's almost certainly going to be below the league average, maybe right near it. Yeah. Catchers go in 2010, which he certainly can do. I'm in on. But growth, I don't know if he's going to have so much growth in 2026. Ben Rice, another player that I was kind of lukewarm on last year. He qualifies at first base with 50 games played, at catcher with 36 games played. Kind of lukewarm on him coming into the season, as many were, with, I think, very good reason. And in the end, Ben Rice established himself as almost an everyday player. Strong walk rate, strong strikeout rate, 836 OPS, 244 isolated power mark, spreading the ball over the place, 93% exit velocity, excellent. 15% barrel rate, excellent. 56% hard hit rate, excellent. 14% launch angle. Again, this is not guaranteeing 30 home runs by any means, and we saw him hit 26 last year. But I really like that launch angle if we're talking about a guy, producing solid overall numbers. His issue is, he's not speedy enough to beat out a bunch of batted balls. There is a good deal of fly ball in his game. Not crazy, as we just discussed. It's 15, 16% launch angle is not crazy, but it's a little high. Let me say it this way. It's right where it should be for Ben Rice. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's a little high if you're expecting good batting average. But as an on-base percentage player, he's got some Max Muncy in him. He's got, similar. I don't think he's hitting 35 home runs, but, he's hitting 230 with a 330 on-base percentage. Like, that's doable for him. And I think most intriguing with him is where does he hit in the batting order? Because we saw him last year, and this is really kind of the ball game with Ben Rice. If Ben Rice is hitting 7th or 8th, if he's in the top 4, so it's probably going to be the way I'm looking at it. They have it. Roster resource has it Grisham, Judge, Bellinger, Rice. I'm not doing that. I am not putting Trent Grisham at leadoff, but that's me. Okay. If it's lefty, what if we went Bellinger, Judge, Rice, Chisholm, Grisham? I don't know. Bottom line is, let's follow this with Rice. Got a good chance to be the top 4. And that's very intriguing obviously being in the top 4 of a batting order for extra plate appearances. And any time you can get close to Aaron Judge in the batting order, that's a great thing. Chandler Simpson. Chandler Simpson's going to lead baseball in steals this year, right? Came up, did very well. They said they didn't love his defense. They wanted him to work on some things. They demoted him. Okay. They called him back up. Through it all, he was exactly the player we expected him to be. Exactly. He batted .295 and stole 44 bases. Got no power. Not going to drive the ball. He's the new Billy Hamilton, but he can hit. Remember, I used to always say and write, Billy Hamilton can run, but he can't hit. Well, Simpson can hit. And again, it's a limited hit because there is zero power here, and there never will be any power for him. But could he hit 280 and steal 50 bases this year? You bet your ass he can. Limited, so you have to put him in your roster in a fit kind of way. Much better roto option than a points league option, or roto option than a head-to-head option. But batting average and steals are going to be there. And if he led baseball in steals this year, I would not be surprised at all. Lenyn Sosa. Sometimes guys do things and you're just like, huh, cool. It's kind of what happened with Lenyn Sosa, White Sox player, 99 games at second, 42 games at first, played a couple of games at third. So multiple position eligible coming into this season. Went 20-75 last year. That's great. Had shown none of that power whatsoever prior to that point. Even last year, his 170 isolated power mark just barely over the league average. His 3% walk rate is terrible. His exit velocity went up. His launch angle went up. His barrel rate went up. His hard hit rate went up. Everything went up last year. And the expected numbers all say in WOBA, slugging, and batting average that what he did last year was deserved based upon his batted ball profile. That's cool. Is he going to get another 550 plate appearances? Nah. Should he? I would be really surprised if Sosa were able to replicate last year. I'm certainly not expecting growth from him. Dual position eligible, AL only option in my opinion. And then finally, Kyle Stowers, before we talk a couple of the guys that are moving around, the old baseball diamond signing with new teams. There's a couple of news stories. Kyle Stowers with the Orioles for a few years, well, for a long time, actually. It's actually 28 now. Start, stops, injuries, just could never get his game going. And then last year, he had 25 home runs last year. And not only did he hit 25 home runs last year, he had a 900 OPS last year. Yeah, for the Marlins. 900 OPS. So, walk rate I loved. The strikeout rate went from 35% to 27%. We loved seeing that. That shows significant growth. His isolated power mark doubled from the previous season. Batted ball data, 52% hard hit rate last year, 50% for his career. He hits the ball hard. 19% barrel rate last year. He's not sustaining that. But his career mark is 15%. He hits the ball really hard. And he certainly seemed to find a groove there. He took a big contract extension from the Marlins. I forget what it was. But he turned down a big contract extension because he wanted an even bigger contract extension. So Stowers is going to play every day. He has the ability and should have the playing time to maybe hit 30 home runs. We're probably going to run into a scenario where the numbers are pretty similar in the counting categories to last year. Even if the 450 plate appearances turns into 500, like on a per game basis, a per bat basis, plate appearance basis last year, a little bit aggressive. But I think his production overall could be very similar to last year. In fact, I'd expect the run scored mark to go up a little bit. RBIs could certainly go up a little bit. Batting average probably drops a little bit. But he's looking like a random number, 250, 25, 75 type. If only he doesn't run much, but if only he ran a little bit more, he'd be exciting. So there's the link to the article. You can see it on the screen. You can see it below. If you have any questions or concerns, anything like that, hit me up in Discord. We'll have the pitching article I think we'll talk about later this week, probably on Thursday. So we'll talk about that. Let's talk about some of these players in the news before we shut things down here on the show. Remember, the Elite Sports Show with Jeff Mans is Monday through Friday, 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. So Jeff will be there in about an hour and a half, hour and 15 minutes from now. I'll be with Jeff on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Justin Fensterman will be hosting this show on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. I'll return on Thursday and Friday. The Giants signed Luis Arraez. Why did the Giants do this? Because Casey Schmidt was their only second base option, and they were kind of It sounded like Luis Arraez wanted to return to second base because I think, if I'm speaking for him, which I shouldn't, but I am, hitting 315 with 9 home runs, just We're seeing it. No one wanted to sign him to a contract. Couldn't find big money. That just doesn't really work at first base. If you're doing that at second base, theoretically, your market's much higher. Now, the problem for Arraez is he's a very average to poor defensive second baseman, which is why he got moved to first base in the first place. We'll see. The Giants have Chapman and Adames on the left side. So the left side of the defense is as good as any in the National League. It's excellent. Right side, we'll see how this goes. Devers and Arraez, we'll see how this goes. But the Giants are signing Luis Arraez. They gave him a 1 year, $12 million deal. I don't like it as a Giants fan. I'd love to see a multi-year deal because if he goes out and does what he's done previously with the bat and he shows a moderate defensive glove, well, then next year someone's giving him 3 years and $40 million, right? So we'll see how that goes. But right now, he'll play second base would be my assumption. Now, he could play some first base if necessary. But they have, again, Devers. There's likely to play there. He could use some time at DH. The Giants have Bryce Eldridge, and they're trying to figure this all out. So the thing that makes the most sense, and we've heard it since the signing, would be just to put Arraez at second base because that's the weak spot in the Giants lineup anyway. Casey Schmidt, make him the bench guy. That's cool. Everything. Okay. Schmidt can play a little infield, move around, that kind of stuff. So Arraez is going to be in the lineup every day for the Giants. That's my full expectations. The ballpark shift is not a good one moving to San Francisco, but it doesn't matter to him because his offensive game, who cares? He could hit leadoff. And if he's hitting leadoff and it's, Arraez, Adames, Devers, Chapman, Ramos, like if he's hitting leadoff, so he is somebody that's in the rankings at fantasyguru.com only at first base because that's the only position he qualifies for. But keep that in mind when you're looking at, did he even play second base last year? He played 14 games at second base last year. Some setups will qualify at second, but he's supposed to be the everyday second baseman for the Giants. So keep it in mind when you're putting your team together, when you're drafting. Remember, he doesn't run. He's not going to drive the baseball. But if he's batting leadoff, he's scoring 90 runs. If he's hitting 315, there it is. And if he's qualifying at second base, whatever your in-season requirement is there for second, 5 games, 10 games, 20 games. Once he's qualified there at second base, he'll be dual position eligible, and utilizing him at second base is much more pleasing than utilizing him at first base. This next one, Eugenio Suarez goes back to the Reds. Homecoming for him, 1 year, $15 million. Kind of surprised by that. He's 34, I think now. How old is he? He's 34 and a half. Yeah, it's like kind of surprised he did that, but he obviously couldn't get the contract he wanted. He waited late. Spring training starting here pretty soon. So he goes back to the Reds, and he's probably going to hit cleanup. So we're looking at Friedel, Marte, De La Cruz, Suarez kind of thing. Now, the problem for the Reds, does defense matter? And I think that's, that is the real question here, because at third base, they have Ke'Bryan Hayes. Ke'Bryan Hayes is not a good offensive player. He's never been a good offensive player. He's never going to be a good offensive player, but he's a really good defensive player, and he's a multi-time Gold Glove winner, right? Then you got Spencer Steer. Spencer Steer, can play first base. He can play third base. He can play outfield. Pretty good defensive player. He's hit 20 home runs each of the last 3 seasons. Okay. Where's he going to play? Well, we heard, and this is from MLB.com. Here's the actual, let me get the verbiage here. And this is a direct quote from MLB.com. Eugenio Suarez is expected to be primarily a designated hitter, but also play first base and third base. Cincinnati already has 2-time National League Gold Glove winner Ke'Bryan Hayes at third, and Spencer Steer, who was a Gold Glove finalist at first base, will play some outfield and have a utility role. Rookie and top prospect Sal Stewart is expected to have a similar role as Suarez as a DH and corner infielder, unquote. So Ke'Bryan Hayes, multi-time Gold Glove winner at third base. Spencer Steer, who was a finalist at first base. We're going to take one of those guys out of the lineup. Well, does defense matter? Does it matter who's pitching? If it's, Hunter Green, he's getting fly balls. Do you need infield defense? The bottom line is here, Suarez is going to play every day. He's going to play every day and hit his 30 home runs, right? So, and he not only is he going to play every day because that's what they signed him to do, he plays every day. Like, he has a long track record of playing every day. So we then have first base and third base and DH. There's the 3 places in. So if we're giving 162 games to Suarez, even if it's 20 at third and 20 at first and 120 at DH, he's in the lineup every day. That means that Sal Stewart and Spencer Steer can't be. It's just numbers unless somebody gets hurt, right? I'm assuming right now, and I had to lower Spencer Steer a little bit. Sal Stewart in the rankings. Had to lower him a little bit this morning over at fantasyguru.com. I had to lower Spencer Steer a lot because I think Spencer Steer is the loser here. Again, that's my read right now. We have to follow this one really closely because Steer and Stewart, neither one expected to be a star this season, but both guys, can hit 20 home runs. Both guys could steal 10 bases. Both guys could conceivably qualify at multiple positions, So Stewart and Steer is something, if you're drafting now, again, if you're drafting now, Sal Stewart, could that change in 2 weeks? Absolutely. I absolutely could change. One of them could have a great spring. The other one couldn't. We could hear different situations, but the Reds, who have done this a lot in recent years, adding extra players they don't really need, understanding guys are going to get hurt and they're going to need these guys at some point. Good move for the Reds to bring in Suarez. It just makes things really confusing for the rest of their offense, especially those two guys in Stewart and Hayes. White Sox signed Hayes, different Hayes. This one doesn't have an E in his name. Austin Hayes. Good signing by the White Sox. He can't replace Luis Robert, but obviously he's a professional big league hitter who will be put in the lineup in lieu of Luis Robert, who's now with the Mets. Hayes will be very effective without being a star. Should play every day. Should be quite a quality big league producer. The problem for Hayes that I foresee is obviously the White Sox and that whole thing. But secondarily, he's almost certainly traded at the deadline. I'm assuming that's absolutely what the White Sox want to do. They gave him a 1-year, $6 million deal, so there's nothing here. I'm assuming they're going to want to trade him at the deadline. If he gets traded at the deadline, he becomes a platoon player for his new team, almost certainly. So keep that in mind. That's just kind of there with Austin Hayes. Samuel, I can't speak. Sam Basayo, depending on how you pronounce his last name. The power hitting prospect of the Orioles, who has a chance to be a 30 home run hitter as a catcher eligible player this year. Best shape of his life, folks. Let's go. Lost 15 pounds. Let's do this. He should play most days. A little catcher, a little DH, maybe some first base. But Paseo is definitely someone to keep an eye on here. Love that young kid who couldn't. Joe Musgrove told reporters that he's feeling great as he enters spring training, coming back from Tommy John surgery. He's obviously in his 30s now, and he's coming back off Tommy John surgery. So follow Musgrave. Not too long ago, he was a really good and really consistent starting pitcher in this league. He returns to the Padres, saying, as for right now, that he feels really good. So we'll see how that goes throughout camp. Tony says, hey, Ray, from a Brewer side, what do you think about the Peralta-Myers trade to the Mets for Sproat and Williams? We talked about this trade when it happened. I guess they couldn't sign Peralta long-term, or they didn't want to because it was too much money. $8 million for a guy that, is that good. It's a great move for the Mets. From a Brewers side of things, Sproat, I like a lot. And I think I understand if you're not going to be able to sign Peralta, you're not going to be able to give him, the $200 million contract he wants. Make a move for a youngster. I love that. Jet Williams is very intriguing. Some holes in his game, a little bit of a demeanor. The guy, I think he's 5'6" or 5'7", but he could be a 15 to 20 home run guy. He could be a 25-30 steal guy. He'll be written up this week. By the way, the rookies this week, it's rookie week over at fantasyguru.com. Today, we just dropped our review of the 2025 rookies. We'll then have the rest of the week. The scouting reports for hitters, the scouting reports for pitchers, the historical breakdown of rookies. How do they perform year to year? It's not as good as you think. And we'll also have the top 50 rookies for 2026. All of those released this week over at fantasyguru.com. Click the subscribe tab in the top right corner. If you have any questions, if you want to get the seasonal baseball, the seasonal in DFS, the seasonal in the betting, send an email to support@fantasyguru.com. And get all three, by the way. DFS, seasonal, betting, all three of the baseball products, one low price, all in VIP. Get everything we do over at the site. I think that, the Brewers are in this tough spot. Tony, they're in a scenario where they're a contender, of course, but they just can't afford to keep guys long-term on these big contracts. Losing Peralta hurts. They have to hope that Brandon Woodruff is indeed capable of throwing 150-plus innings this year after his season the last 2 years. He obviously was great last year when he came back, though his velocity was way down. I think Sproat and Williams are decent. Myers, he's a swing man. That's okay. Sproat and Williams, two young, talented guys. And I think, all things considered, the Mets paid a price to get Peralta. But again, they plan on getting Peralta into the lineup, into the locker room, and probably signing him to a 5-year deal. So solid move by the Brewers there. And then Angela says, the White Sox are making solid moves. I wonder if the Pope had anything to do with it. Well, the Pope is from Chicago, right? Yeah, they made the White Sox have made some solid moves, absolutely. And when you're a team that, I don't know, players go to Chicago because they're looking to either get paid, right? Because other teams won't pay them, or they're looking to do something to convince other teams to pay them. Like, I don't know how many people want to go play for the White Sox, but they're making these small moves that they're not bad. They bought in Dominguez to help in the bullpen. They just made a trade for Jordan Hicks. He should help out in the bullpen. They obviously had the emergence of Teal last year. They emerged Montgomery last year. Chase Medroff played pretty darn well last year. They brought in Hayes. Cuero did a really solid job. Like, they've got some pieces here. Murakami, they've turned things around from that perspective. There's a little hope. They obviously need their young guns in the minors. I think those are probably the biggest keys here. Can Hagen Smith and Schultz become who they need them to be? Can they be the 1 and 2 in this rotation moving forward? If so, that makes everything totally different for this organization. But they're doing some minor things here. At least they're trying. Some other teams don't even seem to be doing that. All right, so head over to fantasyguru.com. Get signed up for the baseball product from now until the start of the season. A new article, or at least one every single day, multiple articles a day at times. I'll be in Discord answering questions for football and baseball. The Elite Sports Show with Jeff Mans is 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. This show is 2 to 5 p.m. 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. I'm with Jeff Tuesdays, Wednesdays. I'm with you here for free Monday, Thursday, Friday. Justin Fensman hosts this show on Tuesdays and Wednesdays when I'm not here. Head over to FG, get signed up for any of the products right now. My Super Bowl matchup article will be out this Thursday, as always. Still doing football behind the scenes too. I know, we're still doing it. Super Bowl betting guide, articles, advice, all that kind of stuff for the football product is still available right now. And don't forget, we do also have the MVP plan, which is everything we do besides football and baseball. That includes PGA, MMA, NASCAR, horse racing, tennis, basketball, hockey. Get signed up for the MVP plan by clicking on that subscribe tab in the top right corner and sending any questions that you might have about the products to support@fantasyguru.com. All right, thanks for joining me today, folks. Really appreciate it. Have a great Monday. Hope your week starts out well. Hope it goes great this week. I'll be back with you on Thursday. Don't forget the next 2 days. Justin Frenson will be right here with you. So we're with you every day, rise or shine, sun or rain. We're here every day, Monday through Friday, 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Thanks for listening today. Thanks for joining today. Thanks for downloading, subscribing, thumbs up, ranking, all the good stuff that you can do for us is greatly appreciated as well. I am Ray Flowers. This has been Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com.